Okay, so in this video we're going to be covering the Blood Mage. This is the level 9 version of it. So I've actually added a few skills here that aren't in the build in order to do this fight effectively. Mostly Adrenaline, Skin Graft, and Fortify, just to give me some extra physical armor since I'm the only target. Normally you wouldn't need these when you're in a group. Probably not even if you were doing Lone Wolf. But, you know, Blood Mages aren't super DPS monsters until later in the game when they get some more powerful abilities. So they're going to be a support role for most of the game, and they really won't need to, you know, be the primary damage dealers. So I had to alter a little bit just to get through this phase, just to give me a little more tankiness, but we'll get into it here and see exactly how to play it. Okay, first thing I do here is buff with Deflective Barrier. This is a great ability for dictating combat, especially earlier on, returning a lot of damage to enemies, buffing your physical armor all at once. So we use it here, then I pop Adrenaline, which is pretty normal when you're soloing. You may want to use it more situationally in a group. And then I use Bouncing Shield and hit 2 targets. Bouncing Shield is probably one of the primary DPS skills you're going to be using on Blood Mage throughout the course of the game, because you get it very early on and it does very substantial damage pretty much the entire game as long as you keep your shield updated. And it has a 2-turn cooldown, so we want to try and use that every single time it's off cooldown, because a lot of the other Necromancer skills have much longer cooldowns. You can see because of that Deflective Barrier, not only do I get some damage in the Archer, but the dogs refuse to shoot me, which is crucial in taking down this fight. On my turn, I just go ahead and use Infect there, try and further take down this Archer. We want to get rid of him so we get bonus AP from Executioner, and obviously to prevent ourselves from taking any more physical damage, because these guys all do physical damage. So Deflective Barrier is putting in work here. We've already turned a lot of damage to the Archer, Bouncing Shield to hit the Summoner there and the dog. So this is one of the reasons you want to keep this up when in fights, because you can do a lot of damage just from taking damage. On my turn, I buff my armor, and then I'm trying to figure out how to take this Archer down. I was thinking about using Bouncing Shield on him, but then I decided to use Mosquito Swarm in order to set bleed on him, because he's really close to the edge. I was hoping maybe I could get him to bleed out on his turn. Then I go ahead and use Blood Rain to create a large pool for healing if I need it, or if I want to set Decay on somebody, and then use Bloodsucker to do a lot of damage. I can do that as well. So on my turn here, I go ahead and pop Skin Graft to get a lot of these skills off cooldown. I go ahead and Bouncing Shield the Summoner to get him and the dog some extra damage. Then I pop Adrenaline to give me some extra AP, take the Archer down, and rebuff my armor with Deflective Barrier to also keep the dogs from firing at me, so I don't have to worry about taking damage from them. Alright, on my next turn there, I go ahead and hit the dog with Infect because he's almost dead, a lot from reflected damage. And then I go ahead and cast Blood Rain in order to set bleeding on him, and again, put some blood down in case I need it for Bloodsucker or something like that. If you were later on in the game, you know, you might be able to use Grasp of the Starve to deal some significant damage. On this turn, I really wanted to take the dog down, but there wasn't really any way to get to him unless I wasted my Bouncing Shield on one target. So I go ahead and use Bouncing Shield on the Summoner here to not only deal some damage to him, but get the Executioner bonus to give me some extra AP. Then I go ahead and use Decaying Touch and Bloodsucker to do some significant damage to him and make him so he can't heal. And then I go ahead and buff my armor. I have one more turn to kill that dog before Deflective Barrier wears out, and then I have to worry about him attacking me like 3 times. So I go ahead and use this opportunity to get some damage on the Summoner. So unfortunately on my turn I was not able to kill the dog because he was blocked by the other guy. So I decided to kill the totem, which I haven't really had a problem with throughout the entire fight, just ignoring them. Only because I didn't want to waste any AP moving into the next round. And I get lucky though on the other turn. The dog hits me with a poison dart, which hits my magic armor, which is fine. I got tons of magic armor. And he misses with one of his shots, so it's not the end of the world. On this turn, I go ahead and use Bouncing Shield on the Summoner to get rid of the totem, get the Executioner bonus, deal some more damage to him. Then I go ahead and use Mosquito Swarm on the Source Hound, who unfortunately has 7 health, so I kind of had to waste a skill that has a rather long cooldown. I couldn't hit him with my wand, so I had to do it that way. And then I go ahead and buff some armor and go ahead and hit the Summoner with Infect, so he's almost dead. I'm hoping to take him down on the next one. So unfortunately I got knocked down on my turn and I missed it, but I have a lot of armor in general and a lot of health to chew through, so if I can get this Summoner down here pretty soon, I should be okay. So this time I'm able to use Bloodsucker to heal myself considerably, and then I go ahead and put Deflective Barrier on. This will keep the totem and the dog off me while I finish off the archer. Unfortunately, that doesn't leave me with any AP, so I just kind of got to wait it out. So that Deflective Barrier paid off there. Not only did it reflect damage and kill the thing, the totem there, giving me an extra 2 AP going into my turn for Executioner, but it took off a lot of damage to the Summoner, so on my turn, I'm able to take him down. And then I get another 2 AP from Executioner, so I had basically 8 AP on this one turn, which gave me a lot of options. For some reason, the dog keeps attacking me even though I have Deflective Barrier up, which he wasn't doing the whole time. And it doesn't reflect any damage to him, so I think there was some sort of bug out there, or I don't know, the smoke cloud made it so it couldn't reflect. I'm not exactly sure what happened. But anyway, I'm able to buff again armor on my turn, and you can see that basically I just slowly whittle him down here until he dies. So a couple things about the level 9 version here. I'm not playing exactly as you would play in a group. You'll notice that I didn't use Flesh Sacrifice at all throughout the fight. That's because I don't have enough Constitution to use it and still use my shield, which I really need when I'm playing solo. But if you're playing in a group, you'd have more Constitution, be able to use it more regularly to get that AP bonus. And even later in the game, when you're playing solo, you'll have more attribute points to play around with, so you'll have more Constitution, you'll get it from gear with more buffs. So that's one of the reasons I didn't use it here. And, you know, this build isn't really designed for solo play. It can be played Lone Wolf very well, but it is not Lone Wolf here, so it's struggling a bit harder. But as you get later into the game, it becomes more powerful. But I think, you know, unless you're playing at Lone Wolf, you're going to have trouble if you're not, you know, playing in a group. So here we have a level 14 version of this build. You're going to see the abilities are mostly the same with some added ones. I added the powerful one like Bloodstorm. You can obviously use Grasp of the Starved if you want. I couldn't fit them all in here and still get all the skills I wanted, so I didn't put Grasp of the Starved, but you can have one of, you know, whichever one you prefer. I have Phoenix Dive for more mobility. I have Corpse Explosion, Mass Corpse Explosion, although you don't use them that often. When you do, they hit extremely hard. Shackles of Pain is also very good at controlling battles, just like Deflective Barrier. And the Mass Cleanse Wounds is just from a Source Orb in my chest piece. I didn't spend a skill point on that. Okay, to open up this fight, I go ahead and Phoenix Dive in, and then you'll notice I use Flesh Sacrifice. I have plenty of Constitution here, so that's not a problem any longer. To give me the AP cost reduction for standing in blood. Then I go ahead and use Decaying Touch, because I'm standing right next to the guy, and you got to take those opportunities to use that when you're close, because you won't always have them. Then I go ahead and hit him with a Bouncing Shield and Mosquito Swarm in order to take off as much damage as possible, so he's really weak. So on my turn, I go ahead and use Adrenaline, and then I pop Bloodstorm. I don't normally use Bloodstorm when I'm playing, but I'm not normally playing solo as a Blood Mage. And I'm not playing Lone Wolf either when I'm playing solo. So I use every advantage I can get here. The enemies are kind of grouped up nicely for this ability. So I go ahead and use that, and then I go and use Deflective Barrier to buff my physical armor some more, and also Reflect Attacks for a turn. And then I go ahead and use Shackles of Pain to try and get that control going. Drives the enemy AI crazy. They don't always want to attack you, they don't always know what to do, and it can protect you really well from taking damage in certain situations. So on my turn here, you see Bloodstorm gets another kill. Then I go ahead and use Bouncing Shield to get another kill and deal a good amount of damage to the Destroyer over there. And then I go ahead and buff my armor again. Okay, on my turn, I deal a little more damage with Bloodstorm, and you can see that I'm trying to figure out how to kill this Destroyer because he does physical damage. He also knocks you down sometimes with like overpower, and I don't want to get knocked down. He hits rather hard. So I hit him with Decaying Touch, and I don't have a lot of other abilities off cooldown at the moment. So I go ahead and buff my armor with Armor of Frost, and then I use Bloodsucker on him to deal a bit more damage. On this turn, I'm able to finish off the Destroyer with a Bouncing Shield, then I hit the other Painweaver with Infect, and then Mosquito Swarm, so I set him bleeding and infected. And that's pretty much all I do on my turn, just save some AP. I was thinking about Phoenix diving over, but I decided to save the AP instead. So again, finishing the last enemy here, you can see most of my skills are up cooldown, so it takes a rather long time. I'm not really ever in any danger because I have lots of armor buffs, and that's just kind of how this build works. So eventually I get him down, and that's the end of the fight. So that's the Blood Mage build, and you can see that it's in some ways not as effective as some of the other builds I've showcased so far. It's very hard to make these builds work in a solo scenario. I feel like, you know, I got to get a little creative in order to showcase them, but I like showcasing them solo because if you can win fights solo, then you can absolutely win fights as a group. You know, I'm a big fan of characters that don't rely on other characters to be good, so the Blood Mage is no exception. It's just probably a little more of a group-oriented build than some of the other ones. Same goes for something like Juggernaut. Juggernaut is very powerful when you're playing it in a group because of the synergies it has with different damage types. Not as good solo, but it's still very good solo. So, you know, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys learned a few things about the build. Look forward to more of these. We're going to try and do as many of them as we can between now and August 31st when the definitive edition comes out. And then depending on what gets changed, which we should know here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, we might line up some builds for that, some new builds, depending on how they go. Maybe some Lone Wolf builds because of the changes there. And I have a couple of other ideas. We may do some party builds as well.